if I fully knew how much God loves me and who he says I am, there'd be no anxiety about anything. So when I see someone who thinks that they're worthless, or a child who says over and over, I'm stupid, or I can't learn this, something to the effect that they have no future, that breaks my heart, because I know that that's not how he sees them.
Well, welcome to the Empowered Life podcast, where we tell raw, purpose-driven stories that make you hopefully stop scrolling and start living on mission. That is our hope. So today's episode, it is personal and it's real, and my hope is that it might mess with your plans a little bit in the very best of ways. And so consider that your warning. So my guest is Mollie Lupinacci. And Mollie is sharp. She is strategic. She has spent years in the corporate world working with global brands and honestly had what a lot of people chase. She had a successful career in international marketing. She was living overseas. She's climbing fast. But somewhere along the way, God started shifting her focus. And it started to be more about purpose, less about marketing campaigns and more about fighting for children and being an advocate for vulnerable. And it really leads us to this question of, is success the goal, or is it more about impact? So from Tokyo to Peru, from boardrooms to now orphanages, Mollie's journey is one that I say is marked by bold obedience, is what I see in her, incredible faith, and honestly this joy that just overflows from her when she steps into the lives of vulnerable children. It's something I've never seen before, honestly. It's real and it's raw. And so this episode is about saying yes, and it's about saying yes sometimes before you're ready, and it's about learning how to follow God. And she's also going to tell us about her sponsor child, Geronimo, who literally turned her world upside down in the best kind of way. So you're going to be blessed to hear about that. So wherever you are today, if you're questioning what is my next step, or if you're just craving something deeper, I want you right now to lean into Mollie's story. And it's not just inspiring, I think it can be a wake-up call. So, Mollie, welcome. I'm so happy you're here.
Wow. That was a very warm welcome. I almost don't recognize the person you described because I never imagined living that life and taking that path. Most of my friends have heard me say at least one time or another, wow, I wouldn't have written it this way, but God.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's sometimes cool to take a step back and like look at the journey and
it is. We see things more clearly in the rear view
yes.
than we do as we're going forward, but it just all seems to work together like this beautiful puzzle pieces, coming together and maybe you don't see the picture at first, but then you start to get a glimpse going, oh, that's going to be good.
Yes, that's awesome. Well, I didn't mention this before, but tell our listeners before we get into like your history and how it all started, what are you doing today? What's your current role?
Sure. So I work for Allies in Youth Development, and I get to be a part of rescuing children and the vulnerable, the orphaned, the impoverished, often neglected in a lot of countries now, over 74 countries. And the beauty of what I get to do is tell the story of what God is doing to restore and rescue children, to change their lives, to give them completely new futures. But in doing so, it's changing the lives of everybody around that story.
Wow.
So I love what I do because I love what God's doing, and I get to see it front row. So
that's so cool. Well, we're definitely going to get more into that later, but I want us to go back and talk about kind of how it started. Because it's definitely not where it is now. So you were working for Intel.
Yes.
Living in Tokyo.
Yes.
How do you end up in orphan care? So something shifted. So what was that? What was that shift?
It's funny. I would even go back to a small tropical island in Malaysia because that was our first overseas adventure. Our first yes to God for something that we couldn't even imagine was to Penang, Malaysia for Intel. And I did not know where Penang, Malaysia was.
Yeah,
that was not
same.
part of my
No.
geography work. And it started an adventure of yes and just surrendering our plans and what we thought our young family life would look like.
So you had kids at the time?
We did. Jeremy and Jenny were like 5 and 6, just in early elementary years. And we thought kind of naively that we could do anything for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that God didn't give us his big view of things because we just said yes, one step at a time. He would
have been a
shine.
little overwhelming.
I'm sure it would have. And so we went from Penang for 4 years and really the start of our adventure and really a deeper walk with the Lord in our day-to-day, really reframing everything that we did. We relearned how to do everything in daily life.
Yeah.
But he was our constant. And then we ended up in Tokyo during the financial crisis when everything was trimming back. We were sent there on a real specific mission.
With Intel still.
With Intel still. And it really was an answer to praying for over a year about what the Lord wanted for our family and for us as a part of his kingdom work. And what we've just seen is whether it has been struggle or we were there during the big earthquake and the trauma that the Lord has provided for us and those around us in miraculous ways. And so it expanded our tent. It totally blew open the doors of what we thought everyday Christian life would look like. And we know too much now. I think there's that song, he's too good not to believe. And we can say that day over day.
So it wasn't 2 years.
No. So 2 years became 4 in Southeast Asia and then a couple in Tokyo. And we always did our best to prayerfully decide what we thought we were hearing and where we were supposed to be. But our prayers changed to, God, where do you want us to be an influence? Where do you have us? And each one of us in our family could tell the story a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But you're talking to me today. So Mama has just seen God provide for my husband and my children and me personally as a child of God. And that was different for each of us.
Yeah.
We all experienced the same locations, but we experienced them differently. But Japan wasn't the last stop on that adventure. And really, the adventure hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
But we got back to the States, and then later the Lord took us to Russia. And there was a lot of international travel in the midst of this, which laid a groundwork of seeing children in all different nations. And we always had an opportunity to get a glimpse of those who needed help, and we were fortunate to have the resources to step in to help, and it just expanded our view of how God loves every child, and that we would be amazed at how he would provide and work through the lives of the local missionaries and just even provide through us to help children. But we saw a lot of the really the dangers and the perils of not having support and family around you. And I really got involved in anti-trafficking and how I could be an advocate and to help children who didn't have a voice, who didn't.
This is part of the darkness that you're seeing and
absolutely
the need that you're being exposed to.
Absolutely. We saw it all over Southeast Asia in really difficult ways.
Yeah.
And I had this picture that it only happened over there and it didn't happen in the U.S. And that's far from true.
No.
And so when we were back in the States, I got involved in survivor care and Bible studies and just speaking life and truth to women who had been exploited. When I was in the city of Atlanta. There are some beautiful ministries there and nonprofits that are helping to bring restoration and healing and trauma care to women and young women of all ages. But that just was a launching pad because here in Texas, there are organizations that are helping to bring women out of club life and the trafficking aspects of club life.
Yeah.
And just God's love has just been this constant thread. At one point, our adventure went into Western New York, and I got to be involved in the world of crisis pregnancy and just bringing hope where there's been fear and options and love and just the sanctity of human life and walking alongside women no matter what choices they ended up making to just let them know that God sees them and that God has a purpose and a plan for them. And when I got back to Texas, because I know this question is coming, how did I end up at Allies? I asked the Lord, what did you have for me at this season? And we have the opportunity where we have some choices of where I might work. And I just got this overwhelming draw here, hearing about what they do. And when I asked the Lord to make sense of it, kind of those puzzle pieces I was talking about and how they fit together, I saw this thread from trafficking and club life and restoration and crisis pregnancy and women not knowing their true identity in Jesus and just the healing that can flow from that and having godly women and men walk alongside those who've been hurt and vulnerable. And the Lord said, what if we could prevent all of that? What if we could be in a child's life before...
Stop it before it starts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was like, mind blown. Wow. I'm all in. And so
that's what you saw that Allies was doing. It was different.
Absolutely. Rescue happens at different places, at different points in a child's life. For those who are orphaned, we want to prevent trafficking. We want to prevent falling into the traps of a drug dealer or someone who doesn't have their best in mind. And
can you tell us kind of what is the reality of the orphan crisis and what happens when someone doesn't intersect?
Sure. Statistically, there are about 153 million orphans worldwide. And
say that number again.
153 million. And that number is now at least a year old from because there's orphaned and then there's social orphans. And those are just the orphans. Social orphans are maybe children who have been left alone because maybe a single parent is working in another city and they're toddlers being left alone and neglected. Or social orphans where war or famine or disease has separated families. And there may have been family, but now they're not. And so 153 million, that's staggering. But God. God sees every single child as an individual who has a future. And he has a purpose and a love for them. And so Allies comes in to mentor and to be a consistent support, to build relationships, to be the face that they can count on, where they haven't had consistency or trustworthiness in their surroundings. They can look forward to their friends from Allies coming every month. This mentorship is a tremendous foundation. It's building the things that we all hope that we gave to our children when we were raising kids, the support, the not so common sense life skills. But you asked, what happens if they don't have something like this?
Right.
Life expectancy for an orphan is sadly maybe 30 years. And that's just not acceptable.
No.
And so unless somebody steps in, and what we have seen, and now after 14 years of practicing this kind of love and intervention in children's lives, and fine-tuning, that having regular relationships and teaching life skills and giving them the tools to not only know how to grocery shop and cook meals and feed themselves, how to work with money and all the things that we learn intrinsically growing up, but how to pick friends, how to have godly character, how to not fall into traps, to raise awareness so that they don't fall to the ploys of the groomers that are out there to try to trap kids.
Yeah.
Or
So you say the life expectancy is 30. When are they aging out, and what's happening in those years?
So it can vary country by country, but some countries it's as young as 15 years old. And you think about a child being out on the street at 15, and as a parent, that's horrifying.
But
And
our kids being out on the streets at 15 would be horrifying. But like you said, we've taught them some basic things, basic life skills. These are gaps that these children are not receiving in the orphanage. Is that right?
absolutely. What we have seen is without intervention, children will leave and they will form the wrong kinds of attachments,
Yeah.
get in with the wrong people. There's suicide, there's depression, there's substance abuse. Sometimes because of their family history and how they ended up in the orphanage, there was history of different substance abuses. And so Allies mentors show them that there's another way. And we're always showing them God's more excellent way, but they also show them how to make choices and how to have healthy bodies and healthy minds and healthy lives. And that's a big part of those tools.
Yeah.
So we also look for partners and are always building partners where we can to help at that next stage, that when they grow out of the orphanage, that maybe there are shared living experiences or help. We get to send kids to college. Some nations will actually pay for their orphans to go to college, and through God's amazing work on how he connects people. We've had Allies leaders who have built online tutoring platforms. They've recognized the education gap between where the orphans were and where they needed to be to get into college and pass the entrance exam to get into college. And so now we have 100% passage of those who want to go to college.
Yeah.
And just recently somebody said, well, what about trade schools? And absolutely.
Yeah.
We come along and help orphans dream. Maybe they haven't even thought, what do I want to be when I grow up? Because maybe they've told, there's a futility that kind of is in a lot of the orphanages and orphan world. And so we introduce, what would you like to be? What do you like? And we bring in police officers and nurses and all sorts of teachers and different kinds of careers. It's like opportunity to have career festivals, to just expose them and see what they're interested in. And maybe it's being a chef, maybe it's baking, maybe, just like every child, there's every possibility of learning what they don't like and what they do like.
Right.
And so
That's amazing.
we look to remove obstacles and help put them on a different path than what life looks without help.
Right.
So we step in, we offer monthly mentorship, and honestly, I'm pretty impressed with how we do it. One of the things before I joined Allies that impressed me was that we hire in-country leaders. And so we're finding people who know the language, they know the nuance, they are part of the community, and we help develop them. We help, that means lasting development for the community. They're invested, and those leaders are the regular faces that they see.
I think that's so powerful because, there's only so much that we can do to mentor a child in a country that we don't live in, right? I mean, we can go on mission trips and we can, visit them occasionally, write to them, and we should do these things. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, and that those are powerful steps. But there's nothing that can compare to being face-to-face on a consistent basis.
Absolutely.
Like these mentors are. Not just that, but they understand the need more than we will, because this is where they live. This is their home. This is their community. So they're personally invested, right, in seeing a child's life impacted.
Oh, they are so invested in more ways than you could know. One of the stories that came to mind was when I got to visit, and see some of these programs firsthand. Last fall, my husband and I went to Peru. One of the first places we visited was an orphanage in Lima, Peru. The leaders that took us in used to be orphans at that very orphanage. And to see the children lean in and to know that these young men knew exactly what they were going through.
They get it.
They totally got it.
Yeah.
It also kind of blew my previous conception about how a mentoring program would work and what happens in a mentoring program. So perhaps I can paint a picture of that.
Yeah.
So Allies leaders gather volunteers, local volunteers. They find passionate people, passionate for children and building them up. They find children's educators, maybe through the university, elementary educators, educators who've been involved in trauma care or have had some training through Allies to recognize different things, so that when they get there, they can see the room. They can see who's on the fringe. They can see who looks happy and is part of the gang, but really that's just a facade.
Yeah.
And they are not just thermometers where they read the room and take the temperature. They come in and they change the temperature, loving for month after month after month to make a difference in a child's life. And that is dramatically different than some of the short-term trips that I've been on. And it's beautiful to see because I saw the Allies leaders and volunteers deeply care for the children. And I felt so blessed to get to really be a witness to this and to just give some hugs, a lot of hugs, and see what was going on. But it really blew my picture up of what I thought was going on in a mentoring meeting. It is far deeper and has a much greater impact than I had imagined previously.
Yeah. That's amazing. I think that's one thing that's so unique about your story that I, admire so much is your global experience, and that you have seen so much of the world and so much of the need. And I think for me, I've lived here in Dallas-Fort Worth my entire life. And I'm not knocking that. There's blessings to having those kind of roots, but now that I'm, getting more international experience, I definitely see how it just opens your eyes to so much that, it's easy to just turn a blind eye to the needs of the world and to almost get so laser focused on your own life and your own need and what's going on right in your circle that you miss the big picture, and that's what I think your unique experience has provided, is just this, I don't know, like you said, you've seen the world is so big, yet you feel like in some ways it's not. Like these are all God's children, whether they're from Texas or Cusco
Indonesia or Cusco.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
Right. That's so cool.
It's interesting as you were painting that picture, I've really come to believe that we all can have an adventure with God, and that the Lord takes us to the mission field of his choosing for us. And there's easily a mission field in our neighborhood, in our schools, in our churches, in our workplaces. I have to confess that it was a little bit easier to live the Christian life overseas, even in countries where Islam or Buddhism or Hinduism was prevalent, because people would look at us and they would say Americans equal Christians. And I would think, oh, I wish that were true, especially in today's modern times. But they would have an expectation of us. And so we got to be really reflective and contemplative of what does it mean to be a Christian? What is it that we want to put on display when we're living in these different countries? And a lot of countries, people would ask a lot of spiritual questions like, what does your God think about this? What does your life, look like? They'd see our holiday practices. They would see just our celebrations and want to know the meaning of them. And it actually made us pause and stop and think, what is the meaning of this to us? And what is it really? And so It was a bumpy journey to really clean up and re-examine what really mattered to
Yeah.
us. And that fueled me for each new adventure. But living here, now that we live here in Texas, and we got here as fast as we could, I tell my Texas neighbors, there is a world out there, and it could be down the street, or it could be in one of these far off locations where Allies is serving, or any number of places where there's a child or a child of God that needs what they carry and needs the word of encouragement or the patient time to sit with them or something from their life that they could teach them. And I guarantee you, anytime I thought I was doing something good or noble or something charitable, I got doubly blessed, far more than I would have imagined in being involved in that. And so if there's ever a place or just even a thought, a passing dream that someone has had about a place, maybe when you see a movie and that place highlights, maybe God is
Stirring
trying,
something in you.
trying to get your attention to stir up some dreams. Because just like kids who have not learned to dream, I think sometimes when we get older, we get more mature, perhaps we put some of our childhood dreams away. And the Lord still sees us and calls us his child and still is hoping to dream big with us and have these adventures with us.
That's amazing. So true. I think, I've heard many times, like, you go on, whether it's a mission trip or pouring into the life of someone else, and you do it, you think you're doing it for this other person, right. And it's you that is blessed and that's changed and is, is transformed by that experience. So
If we could say God is sneaky, that would apply
Yeah.
in the most beautiful way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so powerful. So let's talk about Geronimo. I know this is a story that is so near to your heart. And so Geronimo is a child you sponsor, but I know he's much more than that. And he is now part of your story.
Yes.
And he has wrecked you in many ways.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And I've heard you speak of him on many occasions, and it's always with tears and with this giant smile of just joy. And so fill our listeners in about Geronimo and in that story and how y'all met.
Geronimo. It's Geronimo with a J, just like all of the other folks in my family.
Okay.
Which was really sweet.
That's cool.
Geronimo lives which is barely a village, at 16,000 feet in the Andes Mountains of Peru. And we learned about Geronimo when we learned about the Keros Nation. They're an ancient people group, I think discovered in the 60s. They speak a spoken language, Quechua, and they have a very basic life, very humble, with a child mortality rate of 35%. And when we heard about that, it broke Dr. Baeva's heart, and we started hearing stories about the Keros Nation. And as God would arrange it, our allies...
Sorry to interrupt, but is the mortality rate due to just nutrition, to the harsh living conditions?
Definitely harsh living conditions.
Lack of health care. All of the
unclean
above.
Water. Problems with, similar to all the mountain children of the world, where there aren't antibiotics, there aren't clean running water, there aren't the same facilities and care that we would have.
So we're talking vulnerability on like a whole nother level.
A whole nother level. And that was really the birth of the Ally Sponsorship Program, because all of our sponsored children, I'll step back. We didn't jump into this because there were other great companies doing this.
Sponsorship
of an individual child. Up until this point, we had built a beautiful foundation with the Allies Mentoring Program, and we're seeing the lasting impact of that. But here was a group of children in the Keros Nation that needed survival care. They needed help with their basic needs, whether it be food or medicine, different kinds of care. And we got to know the leaders, and they asked, please save our children.
So how did that connection come about? Like, how did you guys
Honestly,
even...
I am not the one with the full story in that regard. I just know that God arranged our allies leaders who were in the area that they knew the ancient language. There's so many languages in Peru, different dialects, and they knew the ancient language, and they were willing to make the very arduous journey up into the mountains, up into the altitude on roads that get washed out by the rain. I think early on it was over a 13-hour trip that involved cars, horses, foot walk to reach their final destination. It was very... it was rough. It was rough, but the passion of the team there was high, and they started visiting the kids. And over time, just the pastor in the Cusco area and our leaders just knew that these kids needed more if they were going to survive. And so the leaders invited us to get involved by teaching Spanish. And we said that fits our mission. We try to put children on a path to education. And this...
Because they're kind of stuck in the cycle of poverty and vulnerability if they can't speak Spanish.
They can't speak to their neighbors in Peru. And so coming down the mountain and interacting with anybody else just wasn't an option for them. And there wasn't a path to do that. But visionaries saw that if we could build what was called a library and have a place for books and classes and additional teaching and a place including a bathroom. And, it sounds so funny. I remember the first time we saw the truck taking the bathroom, the porcelain toilet up the hill, I just cheered. And I know I sounded strange, but that was going to change how other organizations might visit the area too.
Wow.
It just really was a shift. It's
restoring some or maybe not restoring, giving for the first time dignity to them, to be able to, just common luxuries that we don't even think about.
I don't even fully know if the whole village, because there are several clusters of people on the mountaintop. And they're agrarians, so they're taking care of their alpaca, and they are spread out. Like, think about David shepherding sheep on the side of the hill, and they are moving around kind of nomadic. And but the opportunity to continue their education, they had small classrooms. They were meeting in 4 communities. The education level didn't go very high. They certainly weren't learning Spanish. They weren't learning to write or read. And so to be able to come in and start supplementing their education for $50 a month, I could make sure that Geronimo, who was starting to get older, could actually stay in school and get an education rather than go find work. Okay. So when he was 8, he says his mom left. That's translated, his mom died when he was 8. His father had left earlier to go find work. I think there's some more stuff in that past. But to be abandoned and alone. And in his own words, I have been alone since I was 8.
Wow.
And what that means is now, as an orphan, he sleeps on the floor of different people in his community. So for my $50 a month, I make sure he can still go to school, and that provides food so he can have a future.
Right.
I don't know what kind of a future you have when you don't have a family or have any history, and there's nothing to offer a future wife or something like that. So we started writing letters. We started seeing him get our letters, which is so fun to get pictures nowadays of seeing him. And early on, he was so shy, and his eyes couldn't look up even at the camera. He was
Had you met him in person?
no, not at that point. So at this point, we're just sending letters, and
Yeah.
I'm we're just opening, just opening up to each other
Yeah.
about who we are,
Yeah.
and just simple.
Just getting to know each other.
And so that was probably middle of last year. So just a few months later, we plan our trip to Lima and Cusco, and I thought there's no way to make the trip up the mountain on our short time. And little did I know that they planned a surprise for me. And they brought Geronimo to a lunch we had, and while we were praying before our meal, little Geronimo was standing behind our regional director, and they sprung him on me. And it was all tears on my part, and just still this, I mean, I can't even imagine how brave he was to come down the mountain with our pastor contact there, Pastor Jesus. So Jesus went to go get him and bring him down the mountain, and to even what he was thinking about meeting us. We'd just been sharing these letters. I quickly brought out my phone and showed him his picture on my phone. And I had brought a gift to Peru, and included in that gift was a pair of sunglasses. And so my husband had his sunglasses on his head, and Geronimo got out his sunglasses, and he put his glasses on, and this giant grin just erupts on his face. And I was not prepared, and I just asked the Lord, what do you want me to say to him? And through translators, I remember it was something like, God loves you so much that he would bring us from far away and bring you down the mountain here to tell you that he sees you and he loves you, and that you're not alone, that you're now part of this Allies family. He's part of our family. And it was...
so powerful.
It absolutely marked me.
Yeah.
It absolutely marked me. This morning, the scripture that was brought to my remembrance was in the Psalms, that he sets the lonely in families. One translation says the deserted. And I just, I know that there's someone listening, or maybe many someones, who hear that and know that that's for them.
Yes.
That he sees them, that he loves them, that he cares about their hurts, he cares about where they've been, and he's never left them. He never will. And no matter what bumps the road may have for us, that he's walking alongside, carrying us sometimes as needed. So
I just keep the phrase of like, to the ends of the earth, keep coming back to my mind as I hear you talk. Like that God will go to the ends of the earth for his children.
Absolutely.
And I love that Allies will go to the ends of the earth. Like to be able to minister to people in a remote village at the top of the Andes Mountains at 16,000 feet, where there's no roads to get there.
He makes a way.
Like if there's a need, then let's figure it out. And
it's funny. Allies has actually gained that reputation that we will go where the children are. We will go where other people don't go. If there's a child in need, we will go. And he opens the door. He's really made ways and made connections and made opportunities. And I know that there's more ahead in that.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I can't wait to hear how the story continues, because I know that Geronimo is going to be a part of your life and your family forever. And the impact that this relationship is going to have, I think, is so powerful. All right, Mollie. So the more I get to know you and the more I hear you talk, I think the one thing that just glaringly stands out about you that I admire so much is your faith. And just this confidence that you have, and discernment of like hearing God's voice, and just having this courage and this strength to walk in faith over fear. And when we were talking last, I shared a bit of that to you, and you were vulnerable in saying that like that's not always how it feels to you, and that it doesn't come always easy for you. And I think it's good for our listeners and for me to hear that, because I think that sometimes we can just elevate people and in a way that makes us feel like I can't have that kind of faith. I can't have that kind of courage. She's got something, you know, that I don't have. And the truth is it's something that you struggle with as well at times. So I want you to talk a little bit about those messy middle times where maybe, courage wasn't as easy. And how do you get there? How do you reset and realign?
I love the fact that God didn't expect us not to be afraid or not to have courage, but that he offered it to us and that he is with us. It ends, I think, in 1:9 that says, because God's going to be with us. And God does go before us. And so there hasn't been anything that I've had to do where I wasn't going to do it with him. And that's where my confidence comes from. It's not in me or my ability.
It's in who's with you.
It's in who's with me, whether it's speaking up for an injustice or speaking in places. I used to joke that he spoke through Balaam's donkey. He can use me, and it's being willing and available. But it's also walking in humility and to not expect that it's because of me, but being a vessel that God can use. And so that's where I say to anybody who wants to say, oh, that's for somebody else. That's for my pastor to share the gospel, or that's for a mission person to go on, a missionary to go on mission.
Yeah.
I think my reading of the Word of God is that he calls us all to do that and that he goes out with them.
Yeah.
And so Jesus left so that he could send us the helper. And that helper, I lean on. Me and Holy Spirit, we can do anything.
Yeah.
And it's all him.
Right.
But the messy part is that you make that decision and it doesn't necessarily get easier. Saying yes to go overseas or yes to teach and yes to do jobs or things that I didn't feel like I had great experience or training, or to speak with different heads of organizations on behalf of the oppressed. But I wouldn't want to miss out on what God could do through me. There's someone, a great part of my courage has been to speak up words of encouragement to people I know or don't know. And it's been just a prompting of the Lord to give me a word of encouragement, or to bring up a topic that hadn't been on my mind. And I can't tell you how many times they've said, wow, I was just praying about that, or I was thinking about this, or it has made me think that if I hadn't stepped out in faith, if I hadn't stepped through my fear and had the courage to say that, maybe they wouldn't have had their confirmation. Maybe they wouldn't have seen how God was hearing them in their cry. We've all heard stories of someone crying out saying, God, you need to send me someone who shows me X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And whatever our part is, I don't want to miss doing my part, because I wouldn't want to miss anybody receiving God's blessing, because I've received so much that it's worth my looking foolish or feeling awkward or shaky knees or a lot of tears to make sure that someone is getting hugged on and loved on by the Lord.
Yeah. So good.
I've received so much.
Yeah.
And so I feel like what I've received, I want to give away.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that this morning. There's that expression, we can't give away what we don't have. However, God has given far more than I possess.
Yeah.
And so there's a nuance in that. And I think it's well-intentioned that I want to spend time with the Lord and learn to linger so that I can be filled up with his love, so that I can give it out. And I want to empty myself.
Yeah.
And then I get the joy of being filled again.
Yeah.
But I want to empty myself because there are thirsty children and children of God out there that need his cool water.
Do you feel that that is where you find like your greatest just contentment and joy in life is by giving and pouring out?
I used to say that I like going to work with Daddy Day. Like that just I like
I love that. Yeah.
we had bring your kid to work
Yeah.
at Intel and actually at other companies that we've worked for and that picture of going with Abba Father and not really knowing from a childlike perspective, really not knowing what his big picture is or what he's got planned for the day, but
Right.
just taking his hand and trusting him to say, okay, I'm going to follow you in this. And what adventure do you have? And, a big part of that mess is also recognizing his voice. Recognizing, Jesus tells us, my sheep hear my voice, and a stranger's voice we won't follow. But there is a time when I'm talking to myself and it sounds like me. And it's either me or it's not me, but it's not God. And it's learning to know
The difference,
and just the encouragement that the Father has and stepping through that. And his words are usually, I love you. I am with you. I've got you.
Don't be
I
afraid.
see you.
Yeah.
Yes. And so
messages that contradict that, are just not from him.
that are not from him. And how many times I could tell you I was praying for something specific, which is really good and biblical, but I was praying for an answer to a problem. And the Lord's response was, I love you. And I needed to get that foundation. That's where I can't give away what I don't have.
Yeah.
And that's understanding his unconditional love for me and understanding that he loves that person and that child and that individual, and he sees what got them to where they are. And so we get to walk in that love, and
it changes everything if you have that foundation and you know that you are loved.
It's a completely different set of glasses. You have a
Yeah.
new lens
Yeah.
on yourself and on others.
Yeah.
So
What breaks your heart?
At the most basic level, children who don't know who they are in Jesus. Because I think if we fully knew, and I'm saying this to myself even as I say it, if I fully knew how much God loves me and who he says I am and who I am to him, then I wouldn't ever worry. There'd be no anxiety about anything. I wouldn't have doubt. I wouldn't be afraid because I know that he's for me and that he's with me and all of that. And so when I see someone who thinks that they're worthless, or a child who says over and over, I'm stupid, or I can't learn this, or something to the effect that they have no future, that breaks my heart because I know that that's not how he sees them. And I know that somewhere, someone has said something that has shaped a child's mind
that
that
lie has been
isn't
fed.
that exactly that's not what the Father says about them. And so it is absolutely heartbreaking to me. Children should never be for sale. Children should never be for sale.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything we can do to prevent that
Yeah.
is absolutely in agreement with his will.
Yeah.
We have allies, has homes of girls who have been trafficked, and we're part of their healing journey and reestablishing and restoring them with a hope and a future. And God intervenes with his love at before, during, and after.
So that is what fuels you.
It does. I get the joy of joining him at what he's doing. I get the joy of never fully knowing what adventure he has up his sleeve. I get the joy of really watching miracles take place, whether they are divine setups of putting people together. I was just at a wedding, and the person I sat next to at a very small wedding works for an organization that is going to be able to help Geronimo.
Wow.
Is going to be able to help give him a device that is solar powered for the mountains will share the Bible with him.
Oh my goodness.
And they're going to do it for free. And so,
and this came from a wedding, and you just having this conversation.
this was just a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
And my husband was talking to one of the fellows at our table, and it came out. They work for an amazing organization that helps get the Word of God into people's hands in remote places.
Oh my goodness.
And so
only God.
Only
do
God.
That. Yeah.
Only God. So I love getting to see that. I love getting to connect dots in stories, and I know that what also fuels me is inviting people into this mission with me, because everybody that has been invited in has been so blessed. And I mean, I don't even want that to sound trite. They have been so overwhelmed by the love of God for them and how it's changed their life. I have a friend who started sponsoring her own child in Peru, and little Melinda is precious. And my friend will tell you over and over and over that her life has been impacted just as much as Melinda's. And it has brought her out of what she called a bubble that she didn't even know she was living in. That she was just going about her life, living the good life, and fortunate to have friends, and she didn't have children of her own. And now the Lord has put people in families.
Yeah.
He's connected Melinda and my friend for a lifetime. I have
cool.
no idea where this is going to go, except God's in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that's one of the things that breaks my heart is how many people I feel like get stuck in that bubble. And we're just kind of aimlessly living and lacking something. And we
You know
feel
what I
like,
say to that?
What?
Jump in.
Jump in.
Jump in.
Yeah.
Jump in. God has put something in everybody.
Yeah.
And whether it's to sponsor a child and you want to write letters and get to know another culture and get to share your heart with someone, or be able to fund children receiving mentors.
Yeah.
Those are amazing things to
Yeah.
be a part of. But I say, come on a trip.
Okay.
Allies is involved in 74 countries at the time of this taping.
Yeah.
And we're visiting, and
Yeah.
we take people on trips to see what we're up to be a part of it, and 100% people come back saying, I had no idea it would be that fun. It would be that amazing. It is. It is life-changing. And who knows what that will stir up in them for something that God has put a dream in them to do.
Yeah.
And so,
Just do it.
just do it.
Just jump in.
Yes.
But sometimes you have to have something kind of, I don't know, wake you up from your fog. And I hope that that's something that this message has done. And just listening to your story, and that whoever hears this, like, there's some part you have to play. And there is so much joy and just peace and purpose that comes on the other side of pouring out to someone else. And
We have an author and a perfecter of our faith. And that author is writing our story, and we are a part of that story. I have a sign in my kitchen that says, I trust the next chapter because I know the author.
I love that.
And what I would say is that don't miss a chapter of your life. Don't miss out on something that could be the climax or the best part of your rear view look that you think, no regrets. No regrets.
No matter what stage of life you're in.
No matter what stage of life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Mollie, this has been a joy. And I think, you're just a living example of what it looks like to just follow God and trust Him. And I just want to thank you for just your honesty and your realness and sharing your faith with us, and just for the work that you're doing. It's evident that God has orchestrated the events of your life for such a time as this, and you are fighting for these children, and you are being their advocate, and you are telling the stories and rallying other people to join in the mission, and it's beautiful, and I'm just so grateful for you. So, to our listeners, I hope that Mollie's story has been a wake-up call for you too. I think it's something that we all struggle with in that we like to be comfortable, and it's easy to like settle into just looking for a life of comfort. But we know that sometimes stepping into a calling and a purpose is not comfortable, and it's not always convenient. And we can't always play it safe if we want to live a life of purpose and impact. And so obedience isn't a passive thing. Sometimes it might cost you, and it might interrupt your plans, as Mollie has experienced, and it might stretch your faith a little bit. But, that's okay, because there's lives on the other side of your obedience that will be impacted and changed. So if today's conversation stirred something in you, which I really hope it did, I want to give you a few ways that you can live this out this week. So the first one is, and I think you mentioned this too, is just to pay attention to the nudge. Just get quiet in your spirit. Maybe take a few minutes today to just sit in silence with God and ask Him, what are you asking me to step into? Where are you inviting me to be obedient? What is it that He's nudging on your heart? And listen to that, even if it's a small thing. Another thing I want to challenge you to do is to find some person in your life this week, like Mollie said, that you can encourage. Maybe it's that you text them, or you pray for them, or you offer your time, but just look for a way to be a tangible, I think you said Jesus with skin on, for someone in your life. And the third thing I want to challenge you with is to take action for a child who needs you. So if you want to be a part of something that is global and lasting, I want you to consider sponsoring a child through Allies, like Mollie shared with us in her story with Geronimo. So sponsorship provides additional protection and hope and resources to the kids who are the most vulnerable and need it the most. So you can visit alliesyouth.org to learn more about that. And if this episode encouraged you in any way, we want to ask you to send it to a friend, leave a quick review. Doing things like that really helps us to share these stories so others hear it and we can awaken purpose and inspire others. So wherever you are in your journey today, whether it's an Intel corporate world or you're on the mission field or anywhere in between, it is Mollie and my hope and prayer that you would just have the courage to say yes to wherever God is directing your steps. We want to thank you so much for listening and for joining us, and we will see you next time.